and welcome to the Review Tuesday. My name is Ruben and I've got Kay with me and a special guest appearance. First time ever, Ethan, my son, is with us because I think he's got some interesting things to say about this review. But firstly, we're reviewing The Wandering Earth. It's not a Netflix original film, but it is a Netflix film. So they've bought the rights, the distribution rights, to send it to 220 countries. And it's already made 760 million on a budget of 50 million. And so we're just going to get into the review right after I show you a clip. So Ethan, why don't you tell us what The Wandering Earth is about, kind of, because it's complicated.
So basically, the sun is expanding and this causes the Earth to have their seas evaporate and global warming increases, floods everywhere, global catastrophe. So to remedy this, they decide to build 10,000 massive engines to propel the Earth out of the solar system into another one 4.2 light years away.
Wow, 4.2 light years.
Okay, so they create 10,000 Earth engines, and the rest of humanity that is survived, I think there's half the population left, is that about right?
Correction.
About 3.5 billion.
3.5 billion people left are living under the cities that they've created underneath the Earth engines.
Yeah, so from my understanding, there's like Earth engines that are the propulsion, that direct. And then there's torque engines around, there's like a ring of torque engines around the equator to torque in cars is like what makes it go fast,
yeah.
Right? It's like power engines. So you've got power engines around the equator and propulsion engines at the back.
So there's a lot of horsepower.
Yeah.
Going from these engines. As you can tell, the storyline is quite complicated. There's also a satellite system that kind of guides and talks to the Earth conglomerate, what is left of, I guess, their structure of who is in power, and they kind of guide them. But thankfully, the story settles on one family. So you got the father who's in the space station, you got the grandfather and the kind of surrogate family, and the son of the father. The son and the father on Earth. You got this family on Earth, and you got the the father on the space station. Wow, that was complicated.
Yeah.
and it made it complicated. Brilliant. Anyway, so the story centers on this family. I think if they hadn't done that for this film, it would be all over the place because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And your brain has a lot to wrap itself around to kind of agree with it, because it is science fiction, and we'll get to the fiction in a moment, because there's a lot of fiction in this. But I have to say, I thought this film looked great. Cinematography wise, the grand structure of it, the sets designs. Ethan and I were talking earlier about the sound, which we can talk about more about, but everything that you want from a blockbuster film, you get. And apparently this is China's first science fiction blockbuster that has done really well, and I think it's excellent for that kind of structure of a film. The popcorn escapism film. You get everything you want. Post-apocalyptic explosions, Michael Bay-ness, it's that type of film. It looks great, it's centered on a family, but let's talk about some of the issues we had.
The first issue is that the sun expanding is only meant to happen in 6 billion years, 2 billion years after we collide with the Andromeda Galaxy.
Wow. I didn't know that. So one of the sciencey things that I thought actually worked really well was something we were discussing about tectonic plates. And when you have the engines that are propelling the Earth, pushing against the tectonic plates in such a way, it totally makes sense what happens in the film, and how you would have these massive shifts in the tectonic plates resulting in huge earthquakes and trauma for the Earth. So we thought that was something that they got right scientifically.
Okay, so apart from that, once you put the kind of the science fiction out with the fiction, if you start pulling this film apart with the science, which it is really kind of going into, I think one of the points that Ethan made was that if you're going to go into a science fiction film, you need to structure it around things that you can tangibly believe. If you go too much into it, if you pull it apart, then you start saying that, these things can actually happen, or we can do this. And when you start doing that, and you can't, and then it makes it a little bit less believable, and it takes away some of what you are enjoying from the film. And it also has continuity issues.
Yes, like a fire being made in minus 85 degrees.
With a howling wind, when the
Yeah.
Earth's atmosphere is being siphoned off by Jupiter.
Yeah, so there shouldn't have been any
Yeah.
oxygen. They're all wearing spacesuits, and somehow there's these fires around. And I know aesthetically it's pleasing,
Yeah.
but when they're definitely going into saying, oh, there's no more atmosphere, there's no more this, there's no more that, and you start putting fires. I did say that if the fire had changed color, perhaps, then it would have perhaps given you in your mind an idea of, oh, okay, there's a little bit of oxygen left, or there's less hydrogen, there's less oxygen. You know, you could have possibly believed it that way, but they just let like normal flame, and you're like, what? Hang on a second. And if you know anything about science, you will know that that's not necessarily true. But I guess we are nitpicking. But again, continuity issues like the helmet.
Yeah, so in one of the scenes, one of the rescue workers, whatever, he becomes sick and he throws up in his helmet, and the next time you see him with the helmet on, it's clean. So
And we know that there was no spare helmets or anything because they
Yeah.
fought over getting a clean helmet.
So, I mean, it is possible that the guy who was sitting next to him ended up with the dirty helmet because his was always slightly milky
I
coloured.
guess, but
who
it did.
knows,
It was edited in such a way that made us believe, hang on, there's suddenly a new magical helmet. So there are issues like that, and it does feel like we're a bit kind of going, oh, the film is bad. It's got all these things wrong with
No,
it.
it's not bad. It's not
It's
bad.
actually really enjoyable. And one of the things that you liked about it was the ending.
Yeah. Unlike a lot of modern movies, the ending doesn't really wrap up anything, but in this, it did, and it was a very good ending that was structured well to the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
Well said.
satisfying. So even though you have these issues in it, the kind of the grand scale of the film mixed with the sound design, which I particularly enjoyed, and the cinematography is great. I think we should talk a little bit about the acting and the family. Hi, we're back. Sorry, our cat wanted attention.
Yes.
So Loki's going to finish the review with us. Okay, so we wanted to talk about the acting of it. I wasn't particularly drawn or emotionally upset when a character disappeared or something happened to the family. I don't know if this is a what do you call it, culture thing. I do think the acting was good in certain parts. What would you like to say?
I think the problem that we had obviously is that we don't speak Mandarin, and so we were reading subtitles, which I think needed a little work.
Slightly.
There were definitely some moments where you read something and you went, "What? That can't be right." So I think maybe the subtitling wasn't true to the actual words or actual meaning of what the characters were saying, and I think that did detract from the acting for us a little bit. But I think also there's definitely a stylistic difference in terms of the acting from a Western point of view and from a Chinese point of view. There's definitely there's a history of the way that performance is done that is different, and so I don't think it's fair for us to say that the acting wasn't good. I think it was good, and I think there were definitely moments where it was outstanding.
Going back
but
to...
it's different. It was different for us.
Going back to the subtitles, it is a real issue. If you can watch the dub, try. Although within a few seconds when we put the dub on, we were like, no. And even that was wrong. We could tell at the beginning that the dubbing was wrong. So we went to subtitles. And then we had some hilarious moments which definitely took us out the film. For example, Kirsten read a dialogue line and I said, what? That's ridiculous. And then we had to go back and check. And it literally said, we're about to go and see the Terminator. We're heading towards the Terminator. Is that right?
We're about to cross the Terminator.
We're about to cross the Terminator. And then I thought, wow, this is a different film. But it was actually they were about to cross the equator. And so Terminator and equator, I mean, you have the ater bit.
Yeah, it's similar.
I mean, it might be a real term. I'm not good with geography.
The Terminator geography line. Yeah.
I'm old.
So there are issues with this film. But if you like science fiction fantasy, then this is going to be up your street. I really enjoyed it, even though it had those issues. What would you give this out of, we're doing the D to A+?
Ooh. Well, I have to say that I thought it was visually stunning, and I think that's what really carries the film. And I think for the budget that it was on, that was incredibly impressive to have that much. I mean, the visuals are just beautiful.
And where would you give it?
I'm gonna give it a B+.
I'm more focused on the storyline, and the mix of fiction and real science didn't work well for me, but it was aesthetically beautiful and the sound was also very well done. So I think I'll go with a B+ as well.
I'm also going to give it a B+.
Wow,
Hey,
look at
high
that.
fives! Well done, family. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this special edition, family edition, including Kat. I hope you haven't. I hope you've enjoyed our rambling, because we have rambled a bit.
Yeah, sorry.
But there's a lot to talk about in this film. Let us know in the comments below what you think about this film. If you're excited to see it, have you even heard about it? Did you know that it was coming? Do you like the fact that it's on Netflix, or would you rather have seen it on the cinema? Because it's definitely that sort of film. It's grand in scale. I imagine that it would have been amazing to watch at the cinema. Thank you so much for watching this review. Do chat to us in the comments below. But most of all, until next time, remember, live
Live
love
on
on Tuesday.
Tuesday.